All right, everybody, week 11. Good news, the cicadas are back, so they're gonna escort us through this week's training. Week 11, week 12, we're gonna start getting a little bit more complicated. So rather than giving a big overview, I wanna talk day by day, and then we'll go back and kind of recirculate and go, okay, so here's what we're doing, okay? So you can take each section one day at a time as you need it. Warm yourself up, okay? And then we're gonna take a section where we're working another flow, but we're adding a movement. So for week 1, what we're going to do is you're gonna swing, we're gonna move into a front support squat, and then we're gonna alternate a press. Now, as we do these 3 movement flows, I want you to focus on completing each movement before you move into the next movement. So for this triplet, this trio of movements, I'm gonna start with a swing, get myself set. There's gonna be a quarter turn of the hammer into the squat, and then I'm gonna relocate a hand for the press. And the hand I'm gonna be relocating is the one that's going to be farthest away from the pommel, okay? That hand is going to transition into the swinging hand as we move into the next round. So what I've got, I'm gonna start on my right, okay? I've got a swing, all right? Up to front support squat. Okay, now my right hand's gonna stay where it is, my left hand's gonna move, hand comes off, press, hand comes back, get right. Now I'm gonna push this off and let my right hand come off to go swing, and then right hand comes on to get to the other side. That way, I'm alternating the press with each round, okay? You're gonna spend 15 minutes right there, all right? After that 15 minutes is done, and you're gonna be taking plenty of rest during this to ask yourself some questions about how the flow is working, really trying to internalize what it feels like, what information you're getting from your system about how the hammer is moving in space. Are you having trouble making a particular transition? Well, it's okay to take a couple steps back and just go, why? You know, why is this proving difficult? Is one hand not going where it's supposed to? That type of internalization is gonna make you a better athlete, okay? From there, we're gonna move on. That's your practice session. From there, we're gonna move on into the training. So, the training for today, we're gonna be working with a triplet, and you're gonna have a decent amount of rest here. We're talking 2.5 minutes. What I want you to accomplish in this rest is more than just recovering your breath and your physiological composure. I wanna revisit what you were doing in the practice session at the beginning and really ask yourself, how did the triplet go? Because we're not gonna take any breaks between the movements themselves. So transitions are gonna start to become a factor. Ask yourself, okay, how is this affecting my system when I do these movements in this order, okay? Because as you start programming for yourself later on down the line, if that's something that you choose to do, knowing that is gonna help you create the overall theme of what a training session looks like, okay? So for this day, day 1 of week 11, we're gonna do 8 presses, so that's 4 per side, okay? 10 pullovers, and then 12 slams. 8 presses, 10 pullovers, 12 slams. You're gonna do it 4 times through, or you're gonna take a 2.5 minute rest in between those rounds. Now I know that's a lot of rest, so enjoy it. Next week, you're gonna wish there was more rest, right? I'm gonna load up and get all of my presses on one side before I switch to my other side, then right into the pullovers and finish with the slams. On my next round, I'm gonna start my presses with the opposite hand, so I've got different hand dominance in the pullover and in the slam, okay? So let's start. Swing your hammer up. Let's start with my non-dominant side. So I'm gonna press, okay, I've got number 1, moving in, there's number 4. Now I've got this moment of transition, move the hand, press number 1, press number 4. I'm gonna add my hand. So my right hand is up top, left hand is close to the pommel, okay? Moving into my 10 pullovers, focusing on keeping my core nice and tight, my glutes squeezed. Then I'm gonna give myself 1 push off so that I can slam for all 12 reps, okay? We're gonna finish this day off with the Tabata. The Tabata is going to be 3/4 of a Tabata, so we're still not talking a full Tabata. 3 minutes of training rather than 4, that's 6 rounds. We're increasing the level of complication a little bit. We're gonna talk pullover into squat. So I'm gonna start with a pullover, all right? And as I return to the front position, I'm gonna go ahead and sink all the way down into my squat, and I'm gonna come back. This is a movement where the Tabata format is gonna encourage you to rush. I wanna encourage you to think about control and think about pulling your elbows back. Remember, we're making armpit lemonade here, especially in the bottom of this position, okay? So, give you a little turn here. I'm going over the top, pull over, sink. Over the top, pull over, sink, right? That's your movement for the Tabata, of which you will get 6 rounds. Day number 2, warm yourself up, and then our 15-minute practice flow, our 3-movement practice flow, is going to be a pullover and a slam broken up by swings, okay? So we are gonna be moving behind the body, then pulling over into a swing. Get yourself a nice slam. Use that recoil from the slam to switch your hands. So we're getting an alternating position of hand dominance as we move into this pullover. Whoop, go get it. Okay, so I'm gonna get myself started. Swing up into front support. I've got a pullover. From here, I'm gonna try and move fluidly into my swing. So that means one of my hands is gonna have to come off my handle. My left hand is as close to the pommel as it can be, so that hand is the one that's going to stay, all right? I'm going up and over into my swing. Right hand comes on, slam. Left hand comes off. Now my right hand is on the pommel. See, there it is. Moving over into the pullover, and the right hand is gonna stay again. Pullover, swing. Left hand comes on, slam, and the right hand comes off, okay? This particular flow is gonna be a lot of good practice for thinking about how one hand has to move on the handle or be removed from the handle so that the hammer is in a good position for the next movement that has to happen down the line. It's not that is a skill that takes a lot of development, so don't be frustrated if you are frustrated by it. So that's the practice done. Training, we're doing another triplet. We're moving our rest time from 2.5 minutes to 2 minutes. Okay, so think back to Monday. Remember how it was so much rest and you wish there wasn't as much? Today we got a little bit less. We're also messing with the rep count a little bit. We're gonna be doing 24 alternating swings, so that's quick count. So each swing counts as 1. You'll end up getting 12 swings per hand and alternate them the whole way through. We're gonna do 20 front support squats, and then we're gonna finish with 16 slams. What you'll find is that 16 slam finisher is going to serve as a pretty great heart rate spike, and you're probably gonna need a little bit more rest after this training session before we move into the Tabata, and you'll see why. But to get started, I've got 4 rounds here. Again, 2 minutes of rest in between each one. Moving into find your first swing. Then I've got 1 rep, 2, and 3. Here comes number 24. I'm gonna bring that right up into front support squat and start to sink. There's rep number 1. Here comes rep number 20. Push this right off into slams. 1, 16, and dead, okay? Then take your 2 minutes of rest, okay? 4 rounds through. Again, during your rest time, ask yourself the question, how does this combination of movements affect my physiology? Maybe there's a muscle system that you notice starts to give out when you combine these 3 movements as opposed to another 3 movements. That's a good piece of information to know, something you should probably write down. Now, why did I make that comment about the Tabata? Well, here's why. Tabatas this week are also slams. So, you're not gonna like me tomorrow. Yay, it's gonna be great, okay? Again, we're working with the same structure. 20 seconds of high intensity work, 10 seconds of rest. We're gonna move through 3 minutes of that, so that's 6 rounds. What I want you to think about is alternating which hand is on the pommel as you move through this. So I might start with my non-dominant hand on the pommel. That means even number rounds, my dominant hand's gonna be on the pommel. Take note of how proficient you are slamming with each hand in a position of dominance, because that's good to know. It lets you know which side dominance you need to practice more of. The other thing about this one is, especially as the rounds start to go on, you'll start to notice some quality of movement fatigue. Don't be afraid of stopping a little bit earlier than the beat and giving yourself a little bit of extra rest. We're training your body how to do Tabata with this, not necessarily training Tabata with this right now. I don't know if that makes sense. But you're teaching yourself what it's like to go through this. And if we're still at a point where only every third or fourth slam is a good one, this is gonna be a little bit complicated. But I want you to pay attention to your system. If your grip starts to fatigue and you just can't hold on anymore, you can always train tomorrow. Go ahead and stop. Day number 3, warm yourself up, and then our practice session, your 15-minute practice, is gonna harken back to the Tabata we did on day 1. But this time, we're gonna add a swing break. As you start to build flows on your own, putting a swing in between 2 movements that don't necessarily flow together is a great way to keep your body moving, but also allow yourself the ability to kind of reset. I wonder what that was. To kind of reset between 2 movements that are maybe a little bit more complicated. So today, we're gonna go pullover into front squat with a swing in the way. So I'm gonna start right hand dominant, come up front support squat, right into my pull over, return to that front support squat, right hand comes off, now left hand's dominant, boom, and there's my switch, okay? Again, we're looking for movement quality. You're not necessarily, you are training, but we are practicing developing new skill in this section. So mess around with some rep counts and things like that just to see how this movement combination affects you. It's actually a really great little combo of 3 movements. It's one of those when in doubt, do those 3 type situations. That's our practice. Now we train. We're into our 4 rounds. We're dropping from 2 minutes of rest down to 1.5 minutes of rest. We're gonna do 10 presses, that's 5 per side. I want all of them done on one side and then the other. Then we're going to do 20 front support squats and finally 30 alternating swings. So I'm in the habit of always starting with my non-dominant hand. First set of presses, got press number 1. Here's press number 5, move into the switch. Woo! Get fancy if you want to. Press number 1, press number 5. Bring this right down into my front support squat. There's 1, there's 20, give it a push off. Right hand's in control, swing 1, swing 30, 1.5 minutes of rest there. The last thing we get here is our Tabata. Again, 3 minutes, that's 6 rounds, just like we did for day 1 and day 2. Today, we're gonna spend 20 seconds working presses on your non-dominant side first, and then 20 seconds on your dominant side. So you'll get 3 rounds of presses per hand. Keep going in the time, and what that functionally means is as I start with a strict press and I start to fatigue, rather than rest, I wanna move into a supported push press so that I can build some volume in this pressing arm. Okay, so as you get started, the strict press may look pretty good, all right? But then fatigue starts to set in. Oh my gosh, we're getting harder, it's getting harder. I'm gonna add this hand and just keep pressing. Add the hand, add the legs, and keep getting into the time. We talked earlier about letting form dictate in the slam how much of the 20 seconds you do. This time I want you to let the form trickle down into the regression so that we can build up the volume in the 20 seconds and keep working for the time. 3 minutes isn't that long, you won't die. I don't think. And that's week 11. Enjoy. Remember, I don't care how many bad reps you can do, you shouldn't either.